Our mission is to accelerate advances towards a cure for multiple sclerosis. Multiple sclerosis, or MS, is a degenerative disease of the brain and spinal cord, affecting more than 400,000 people in the US and millions worldwide. MS can result in an inability to walk, impaired vision, cognitive dysfunction, bladder and bowel problems, and extreme fatigue. No one knows what causes MS. We urgently need to know what causes and contributes to MS, and rapidly to turn this knowledge into an effective cure for each individual patient. The Accelerated Cure Project for Multiple Sclerosis, or ACP, was founded in 2001 by a high-tech entrepreneur diagnosed with MS. He was so disappointed with the state of MS research that he decided to create a non-profit organization that would pioneer a completely new way of accelerating research in MS toward a cure. Since its founding, ACP has vigorously pursued a unique, innovative strategy for accelerating MS research. Our efforts have been profoundly influenced by the success of the open source movement that dramatically accelerated progress in the high-tech industry. We believe that open access and sharing of ideas and resources is essential to accelerating the rate of new breakthroughs in MS. Our continuing goal is to catalyze advances in MS research by promoting the generation of novel ideas about MS and making it possible for researchers to test out these ideas by providing them with essential raw materials quickly and cheaply. Our strategy for accelerating research is represented by our two key initiatives: the Multiple Sclerosis Discovery Forum, which is our website for researchers to learn about MS and then exchange and refine novel ideas that will drive advances in our knowledge about its causes and mechanisms; and the ACP Repository, which is our highly valuable collection of biosamples and data from MS patients, patients with other demyelinating diseases, and control subjects, which enables researchers to quickly and efficiently access the samples and data they need to test out their novel ideas. Our primary requirement is that new results from these studies are deposited in the repository database for the future benefit of all researchers. One of our key objectives is to ensure that the MS Discovery Forum develops into the focal point for researchers interested in MS. We are achieving this objective in two ways. First, with an aggressive awareness campaign directed at the research community, and second, by making sure that the forum always reflects the current state of relevant research, advances the field by broadcasting and catalyzing forward-looking ideas, and serves as a vehicle for challenge-driven innovation. ACP staff members are working closely with the Mass General Institute for Neurodegenerative Disease to fill the MS Discovery Forum with high-quality content and to continually enhance the site's features. Right now, we're seeking support to guarantee that this key asset for the MS research community thrives for the future and drives research towards a cure for MS. Another core objective is to promptly service requests for biosamples and data from the repository and to integrate returned results into the repository database. As adoption of the MS Discovery Forum grows, we anticipate increased demand for biosamples and data, and parallel increases in the amount of returned results. We have a new database to store the information about each subject who contributed a blood sample to the repository, and the returned results from studies using the repository biosamples. The database optimizes our efficiency in fulfilling requests for repository samples and data. We're seeking expertise and financial support to guarantee that all results returned to ACP from studies with repository biosamples are deposited as quickly as possible into the database so that they are rapidly available to all researchers. We are growing the number of patients in the repository as fast as our funds will allow to meet the needs of researchers for new collections of samples. For example, the availability of more treatments for MS is potentially a great benefit for patients. However, as more treatments become available, physicians desperately need predictive tests to determine which patient is likely to benefit from which treatment strategy among many options. To discover and make available these predictive tests, researchers need biosamples, baseline data, and long-term outcome information from a large number of patients undergoing treatment with different medicines. To enable such long-term outcome studies to be conducted with many patients, ACP is building an MS clinical research network that is unique in the US. ACP has well-established individual collaborative relationships with 10 clinical sites across the United States. We recently initiated the creation of a formal MS clinical network that provides researchers with the ability to conduct larger scale studies than any one research group could undertake alone. We now need sustained support for a dedicated clinical research administrator to manage this important resource for the MS research community. ACP is successful because of the open access and sharing aspects of our innovative strategy, the widespread adoption and impact on MS research of the MS Discovery Forum, the establishment of the MS Clinical Research Network, and the growth of the repository in a way that anticipates the future needs of MS researchers. Our overall goal is to improve the lives of those suffering from MS, to cure MS, and ultimately to prevent MS. This is a compelling goal that resonates with both patients and researchers. We provide resources that make it possible for researchers to undertake studies rapidly and cost-efficiently. If ACP and its repository didn't exist, they simply wouldn't be able to carry out many of the studies they are doing right now. We measure our success by the number of patients who've been enrolled in our repository, and we count the number of studies that researchers have initiated using our samples and data, as well as the number of individual results that are returned to the database from those studies. We also look at the number of articles containing new information about MS that are published from studies using our resources. And finally, the number of new products derived from work enabled by ACP. We don't fund research projects. We make research go faster and better. And we do not have our own laboratories, but pursue our mission through collaborations. We have successfully established a new model for accelerating research that is beginning to make an impact on the diagnosis and treatment of MS patients. Since the ACP repository was initiated in 2006, 10 leading MS clinics across the US have enrolled close to 3,000 subjects. ACP has provided samples and data for more than 60 research studies worldwide, and more than 150 million individual results from those studies have been returned to the repository database. A blood test to detect MS has already been developed using the repository samples. These accomplishments were recognized in November of 2011 when ACP received the Global Leadership in Innovation and Collaboration Award from the Sawyer Business School at Suffolk University in Boston. An organization focused on accelerating biomedical research, but started by an engineer, is unusual and not part of the club. Also, our vision has always surpassed our financial resources. Our ability to plan for the medium to long term, particularly with regard to critical collections of samples and data for longitudinal outcome studies, has been hampered by the fact that our financial resources have been limited to the amount consistent with about a one-year horizon. The ACP team has ambitious goals. If all of our goals could be pursued at the same time, ACP's impact both on MS research and on patient care would be taken to a much higher level. For each goal, we create a distinct project summary that includes the project's rationale, specific aims, budget, and fundraising plan. With additional resources, we would be able to execute more projects in our integrated plan. We urgently need a clinical research administrator to coordinate the activities of the MS Clinical Research Network. We also need a full-time biostatistician to optimize the value of the ACP database. An alliance manager is needed to oversee collaborations with academic and industrial research groups. And lastly, a research scientist is needed to develop a patient portal that will allow patients to report their symptoms and treatment outcomes into our database.